All right, good afternoon, everybody. You are live at 1 p.m. here with Sean. I'm your English teacher from Via Meravigli, Milano, from my English school. Remember that you guys can always follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Heck, why not throw in their Twitter and all those other crazy things? LinkedIn, okay? This is Masterclass. This is a second edition that I have with you guys today because last week we talked a little bit about intelligences and different types of styles of learning. And today we're going to try to apply that also to now working abroad. Okay. Uh, I don't know for any of you guys, okay, but the topic that I want to focus in on today is looking at tips and tricks of how to find work, not only in your country, but also to a lot of us. We are looking to move and have experiences abroad. So we're going to take a look at different sites, different resources that we have to find work in different countries. Okay. For example, for me, I'm probably going to give you guys more tips on in America only because I come from America and I understand the bureaucracy and the legislation that you need in order to find work. Okay. So as you guys come in, my first question for you guys is obviously going to be uh, if you could work anywhere, where would you like to work? Okay. Um, a lot of us, especially if we talk a little bit about the present condition that we are living in, okay, the present condition we're living in poses kind of a threat for moving around, for being in a different country. Okay, for some of you, you might actually be living in a different country, not in your native country, and be you might find yourself thinking about the pros and cons of this situation. Um, For me, finding work is always kind of a difficult thing. I'm sure it's a difficult thing for anybody. But there's always going to be someone and some kind of resource that we can always use to find work. Okay. And remember, as you come in, please say hello, introduce yourself. But more specifically, let's focus on where in the world would you like to work? Okay. Obviously, the present condition affects your opinion and your choices, but let's think about in a couple years. I know that there's some friends that we have that wanted to travel this summer, okay, and now they're kind of reanalyzing the possibility of this. But that doesn't mean that in a future from now it could be possible for us to travel again and have that maneuverability to live and work in different countries. For example, in Europe, I know that there's tons of people who either want to work in Switzerland or Germany. And thankfully and luckily enough, we're all connected in the European Union that kind of gives us the open door to find work in a manner that is somewhat easier than if all of the states, all of the countries were separated. Okay. So today we're going to take the leap. Okay. Okay. Today we're going to focus on leaping over to America. Okay, so we're going to jump across the pond, and today we're going to look at, for example, job opportunities and ways that you can prepare yourself for working and living in a different country. Okay. Now, I believe probably, if I'm speaking for everyone here, but probably most of our My English School teachers can give you guys tips and tricks because we took the leap. Okay, we decided to move into a completely different country. Some of us spoke the language a little, some of us didn't speak the language at all. And we decided to jump and we decided to take that risk to come to a new place, to discover and to find a new life in a way. Okay. I know it kind of plays off of the American dream. You guys probably think, oh, this cliche American, the new life, the new world. But in a way, I think everyone has the capacity and the ability to find work in any situation. Okay. Looking at the job market today, obviously we're really transforming, and we have to be really flexible with how we are flexible and adaptable with new opportunities. Okay, because this situation that we're in, it poses a lot of options. It poses a lot of new opportunities for us workers. Okay, so for the working class, I know there's a high unemployment rate and there's a lot of problems with finding work, but I think that in the end of all of this, we're going to be able to find the light and see a lot of new opportunities, especially in new markets, especially in new arenas of what really work is. And today, I wanted to kind of do a small history lesson to kind of understand where we've been and where we're going. Okay. Because for most of us, we kind of have this open space concept of work. And for those of you who work in an open space concept, please tell me your experience. How do you find the open space experience? Okay, because this is a fairly new way to organize the space and organize the ambiance of the work environment. And I think it's really important to talk about. Okay, so if you guys come from working on a team, tell me about it. What is your view on open space? Does it work? Does it not work? Okay, because before we have to think about, for example, a great movie that you guys should watch. It's called Open Office Space. Okay, Office Space is a great film. Checking right now to see if it actually is a film because I forget. Yep. Okay. It's a great film that kind of plays off of this concept of the dividers and the whole fact that we're in this big building, but everyone has their small little, we call them cubicles. Okay. And that's one concept of the working space. Okay. Because today we're not only going to talk about finding work abroad, but we're also going to talk about the environment that you want to be in. Okay, it's very important if you want to be a small business, if you want to be a big enterprise, if you want to be your own boss. Okay, a lot of times I'm sure that this comes into your mind of, there's pros and cons of being an employee or being an employer. There's risks involved, okay? But also moving abroad is also a very big risk. And if you can survive moving abroad, I'm pretty sure that should boost your confidence to give you the courage to really try anything, okay? So today, as we're talking about finding work and giving ourselves some suggestions and some advice, we can also talk about the type of environment that you're really looking for. Okay, I think that's the first question you should ask. Okay. Oh, hey, what's up, Clara? Hey, Alessia. Okay, come on in, ladies. Okay, and tell me, I know that you guys are working from home. Okay, but working from home, what have been the pros and cons? Okay. Okay. So, in your opinion, what are the pros and cons of working at home? And not only that, but for example, now we have a small moment to really think about, do we want to continue in this way? Okay. Do we enjoy this? Is this a way of life that we can continue and make it something more adaptable to our everyday life? Because this situation has become our normality, our way of life. We now have become, we are creatures of habit. And now we have made this our habit where we set up our table, we have maybe some water, okay, we have our phone, we have for me, I got my tissues. All right, we have everything set up. So this becomes our cubicle, this becomes our space. And is this a healthy environment for us? Okay. All right, Clara, thank you. So Clara worked in an open space and it was both exciting and anxious experience. I can understand why. What I mean to say is that I like to share this space, but I felt under pressure, considering the fact that the CEO was always there. Very good. Okay. So, yeah, I understand that. You kind of feel like eyes are always on you, you're always being watched. Okay. Which the open space can be a very collaborative environment, but also this kind of comes into talking about leadership skills, you know? So, in a way, if the CEO is always there, I would take on the CEO role of being more of a team player and integrating and talking with my employees and seeing their opinions and seeing their views to build a better dynamic. Okay. I think that's what's most important is if you're in an open space, the biggest difference is before we saw a physical a physical hierarchy. Okay. So before we saw a physical hierarchy in the office space, as in the bottom employees had a big room of a bunch of little desks, then the directors or the managers had their all small little office, but maybe four or five. Then we go higher and we have the senior managers, and then we have the owner or the CEO. And that was a physical hierarchy that we could see. But today, that physical hierarchy is kind of broken. It's kind of become a flat line. And now we see only maybe by the way we dress shows a physical hierarchy, or maybe who we talk to or how much power we can show is what demonstrates our hierarchy or our position in the company. Okay. So my question for both. Okay. Bear with me. The internet is going to be a little funky today. Okay. Excellent. So, Alessia coming in. So, she works in an legal office. I shared my space with associates. I found it very useful because we could always ask for opinions. And here, confrontation is more like battling heads. Okay. You might want to say more so, for example, opinions confronto, and comparisons. Opinions and comparisons. Okay. Clara continues, I would choose smart working once a week, but not the whole week. I think that one of the pros is that we can manage our time better at home. Exactly. And also, too, we have more of a freedom. But one of the cons is that we are more likely to be distracted. Yes. Okay. But we live in a very distracting world, anyways. So, for you guys, it's all about finding your rhythm and your environment. Okay, I can see that, for example, just talking about this, if you have a family, smart working actually is a beautiful way that we can both raise and be with our children and be with our loved ones and also make an income. Okay, so it's the balance of really loving your family and having time with your family and also supporting your family. Okay, so for example, I see that maybe smart working should continue for people who who are in the situation of having they're married with children and they want to see those moments of change, because when you're always at work working 9 to 5, 9 to 7, 9 to 8, you miss these important moments with your children. Okay. um, so that's the history. We went from office space of physical hierarchy, then we went to open space, which is all out there, and now we are smart working. Okay, and now that we are smart working, our boss has become kind of this ether that exists in the cosmos, but it's not as direct. Okay, we still of course have our Zoom meetings and our digital emails, and but the biggest difference, I think, I know, okay, I enjoy going to the office too. And here, Clara, maybe a little bit more with accuracy, I'm really dreaming about going back. And so we'll use about in a way to kind of think about, we're expressing that this is what we've been thinking about. This is what we're dreaming about. I'm dreaming about going back to work. Okay. And that's the thing. So you guys are already imagining and envisioning this return to the work life. Um, I think that talking about smart working a little bit more, this really has opened up a big platform for us to work anywhere and at any time. The con is that now we usually never leave work. Okay, so we have to once again find a balance, as in, if I have my phone, if I have my computer, people can always email me, they can always send me information. How can I connect? Okay. And that's the most important thing about finding a work balance between your personal life and your work life. Okay. So let's get into talking about finding work abroad. Okay. So now that we talked about different kinds of situations, let's think about it. Okay. Clara, Alessia, what about for you guys? What about for anyone else who's listening? Where would you like to move to live? And how can we make the decision? How can we take the steps in order to work and live in a different country? Okay. So, for example, obviously, the first thing that we're going to have to do before we go abroad is to organize as much as possible. Okay. When I left from Buffalo, New York, and I came to Milan, it took me more or less, I mean, I had focused. The funniest thing was Milan really became one goal in my life that really was, there was a beginning, there was a before and after. Okay. And so moving to Milan, I could say that I had been planning this for 2 years. Okay. I found a job just to save money. I remember one of my professors back in university, he told me, Sean, make like a list, okay, like a budget list. So the first thing that I'm going to say to you guys is, before you go to any country to live, um, I would say make a budget list, okay? All the expenses, and it's okay, just make an estimate. All the expenses, the bills, food, okay, all of the things, every little nook and cranny, every aspect of living your life, okay, having fun, okay, put a price to all of those things. Mhm. Okay, and yeah, I understand, Clara, like, if you receive an email, if your phone rings. So that's why at a certain time, like, think about it. After 7 p.m., just put your phone on silent. Okay. Do a little prayer and you're done. Okay. Ah, excellent. Okay. So maybe not only changing country, but changing kind of the context, so the environment of work, because that's the thing, is we need to stay healthy in this situation. We need to find exactly the group. It's not only finding work, but it's also finding people that you enjoy collaborating with. Okay. Exactly. Exactly. So we have to think about the compromise. The compromise is going to be, and also too, I got to tell you, if you really want something, you will make it happen. Okay. I think that a lot of our teachers also show that a tried and true method of, if you really want to live in a different country, there's a time where you have to jump and a time where you have to leap, but there is a preparation. And so when we look for jobs, we have to think about our standard of living and how much money we need. Okay. So that's why I reiterate, make a budget list of expenses. Okay. So for example, I basically, 7 years ago, 6 years ago, before I moved to Milan, I said, okay, this is how much money I need. I need about 15 grand, which is about 15,000 for 1 year. Okay. That was my low end estimate of how much I need to survive without work, just kind of floating, in search of opportunity. Okay. Okay. So now let's think about, for example, guys, what is it that you need before you leave? What are the most important documents and items you will need to take with you, and why are these items important? Okay. So right now, kind of make a list. Okay. Think about it. What is it that you need before you travel? What is it that you want to take with you? Okay. Now I'm big on minimalism, and basically when I moved to Milan, I came with a bag, and I said whatever I need, I'm going to buy it in my new home. Okay, because that was the thing. The biggest difference 4 years ago, before that moment, all of my travels, all of my adventures were temporary. Okay. But my mindset to move to Milan was a very permanent one. And I think that's the kind of mindset you need to have if you plan to work in a different country. I think it's okay to go in with the intention of, yeah, I'll do this for a while. I'll see if it works. I'll test the water. That's perfect. Okay. But if you really believe in something, you have to go 100%. Okay. You have to do all or nothing. That's the kind of person I am. But each one of you, like we've been talking about already, you're going to find your balance. You're going to find what works best for you. Okay. So, for example, what could be some of the documents we need? Like I said before I moved here, I went between New York City and my home for about a year. I went to the consulate. I translated my documents. Um, let's see. So related to legal field lately, I've been thinking about accent. Okay, so here, Alessia, talking about the UK. Now we're in a different situation. So I don't know how feasible it is. I think it would still be pretty easy to move and work in the UK, even though they've left the EU. But I think that would be an awesome experience, just to kind of be in a different world for a while, because each country is like a little world. It's a little place that I can kind of change myself, adapt, kind of be a chameleon. Okay. Oh no. So, but for you, you might find that if you take a little bit less, you can buy more. That's the idea. You can buy more when you get there. Okay. Um, so, so for both you ladies, what are two things that you would want to take with you? Okay. That you need to take with you. And once again, saying, when I was traveling back and forth from the consulate and my house, I live about 7 hours by car. And so I would drive between Buffalo, New York, and I would usually make like a weekend getaway out of it. So I would do a little vacation. I would go to the consulate. I would organize my documents. Now, for example, there are different ways to uh, get a visa. Some people say that the easiest way is probably a student visa. Okay. Um, but I don't really know. I think that now I'm so into suits. The New York seems so yeah. I know New York is very attractive. All right. But even too, for example, if you're thinking about jumping the pond, okay, what I do, and I think this is a good idea, is before you go and move completely, is I would maybe a year or maybe a couple months before you kind of really start searching, I would plan a little vacation. Okay, I would do a vacation. I'd get a small apartment or even a hotel or something in an area that I would like to live in, and I would dedicate that week of vacation just on searching and finding and seeing if I really like being in this environment. Okay. Because 3 days isn't enough. You don't really get to feel anything. A week kind of gives you a whole roller coaster of feeling of what is the city or the place really like. Okay. Now, it seems like for both you guys, if you decide to go abroad, you're not going to go somewhere out in the sticks. Okay. You're definitely not going to go to Grand Island, for example, where I come from, or you're going to go anywhere, in like I don't any kind of small town. Okay. Obviously, when you guys look for a new job, you're gonna look and go abroad to a big city. Okay. And that has its pros and cons. Uh, Coming to Milan, it was kind of that, it was a mix between big and small. It had a good feeling about it, and that's why I wanted to move here. So that's the thing. You have to kind of, like you try on clothes, you have to try on a city. You have to take it for a spin. You have to walk around in it. You have to feel as if you can live there or not. Okay. But very good. So our important documents are obviously going to be our passport, health insurance, and visa. Okay. Now, coming to America instead of coming to Italy, there's some differences on health care, obviously, so we have to take that into consideration. Okay. For me, as soon as I got a job, even before, even just being anybody in the country, I had health insurance. Okay, but that's not the case in America. So you want to do some research on healthcare plans. There's the state care, the federal care, so you want to be very well read on these topics so that you make a good decision. Okay. And now, okay, we got to talk about flights. Okay, so I'm going to tell you guys right now is probably the best time to fly because there isn't anybody flying in the air. um, but when we plan our flights, okay, when is the best time to buy a plane ticket? Now it seems like the market's kind of changing, but in your opinion, when you guys were planning vacations or anything, when did you start kind of planning and searching for tickets? Okay, for me, it was anywhere between 90 and 30 days. Okay, and I know this is going to sound crazy to you, but this is how I found the cheapest ticket in my life. Okay, so I had been watching this plane ticket. It was a one-way ticket to Milan from Buffalo. Okay, and I didn't want to pay more than $350. Okay, I thought 350, that's it. And 90 days before, I'm seeing it at 600, I'm seeing it at 500, I'm seeing it at 400, and then about, I would say, the 50-day mark, I saw it at 377. I'm like, okay, 377 is good. If I ever see 377 again, I'll just get it and buy it. But I left it lie. Okay, I left it there. After uh after a bit, now it's coming. Now I let a month go by and I still am looking, but I'm not really seeing the price I want. Okay. And I remember it was a late night in June. I was out with my friends out on the town, and I come home around 3 in the morning and I go, out of curiosity, I'll just check. Okay. And it came 3 in the morning, 325, and I'm like, boom, sniped it, and I bought that ticket. Okay. And very good. See, so you have tricks as well. Okay. So Tuesday flight tickets are cheaper. And for example, especially in the evening. Okay. And exactly. So we're looking at that 3 month before kind of idea. Okay. Skyscanner, Expedia, Booking.com, Kayak, Travelocity, Trivago. I used to use a site called Student Universe that was pretty good, but now it's strange. I kind of just use Google. Do you guys have any good suggestions on any websites that you use? Okay, because when I think about traveling, I'm mostly using Google or Airbnb or Kayak or Booking. I really don't go outside of those things. Uh-huh. Very good. Uh-huh. And exactly. So you stick to Skyscanner. So you guys are still Skyscanner. Alessia, how about you? Do you use any specific websites out of the norm? Okay. What I noticed is that, for example, I often, before, I would use Student Universe, okay? And then from that, I would see the company, the airline company, and then often I would go directly. I would go directly to the company site. So I go to this thing, I check it, and then I go direct to see if there's any kind of change in price, okay? So that's kind of my suggestion. Okay. So remember, if you guys are looking for a one-way ticket and you don't know, you follow it and you kind of want a good price, 3 a.m. is the ticket winner, okay? It's the breadwinner. Now we have to think about, for example, for both of you guys and for anyone else who's listening, the some we are professionals. We're young professionals, so we're obviously going to be going into an arena that is talking about CVs, talking about oh, another tip, I checked the flight prices opening an anonymous page on Google so that there's more difficult to generate algorithm and the prices don't go up. Nice, okay? So the good old incognito page, I like it. Good tip. So now we're gonna look at, because you guys are professionals, we have to understand that there are different types of requirements for living in a different country. Some obviously some companies want to see that you have a proficiency in something, okay? So think about it. If you work in a restaurant, pubs, cleaning services, bars, or cafes, you probably need a very base English for that, okay? But if you're trying to get a job as a director, as a manager, as somebody in more of a logistics, human resources, a bigger company, you're going to need some kind of certificate, more or less. As I said, for example, I came in as a student and therefore my proficiency was demonstrated through going to university. But if you make a nice CV, exactly, she is a pro. If you make a good CV, if you outline a nice structure and you start sending it around, usually, for example, a company will hire you even through a Skype call or a Zoom call or anything like that, okay? So some things aren't necessary. It's best to kind of do kind of like how Clara does the algorithm of the incognito and the not incognito. I would make two kinds of CVs. I would make a CV that is focused on a certain type of work and another type, using your skill set. Okay. And therefore, you can begin to have Zoom meetings or Skype meetings so that you can kind of get a feeling if you maybe need some kind of certificate or just your language as is satisfactory for them. Okay. So here are some different exams if you guys are looking into exams, okay? We obviously have the Cambridge, the TESOL, okay? All right, sorry about that, guys. I am back. Apologies if I dropped out for a second. Thank you for staying with me, okay? Mhm. But no, it's really good that you guys are sharing tips like this, okay? Now, for both of you, do you guys have any certificates or no? All right, because certificates obviously will help you, but I think that really just making a nice CV and sending it along and trying to get into contact with some businesses, I think is the best thing. Any websites? Let's see. I think the best thing to do is, for example, Wix is a really good one, Alessia. But honestly, you could just type in like download CV. Ah, very good. And also Canva. Yeah, Canva is very good. Okay. So Wix, Canva, or even, for example, if you have Word at home, Word gives you a structured CV. And that is basically the the baseline, like you can modify it, you can integrate it into your typeset. So even using just Word is a really good CV maker. Okay, just find the template for resume. Okay. In Word and that. So if you just want like a nice structured, clean, Canva is obviously going to be a little bit more dialed up. Okay. But just remember also, ladies, whenever you're making a CV, you always want to research the company and make a nice cover letter explaining and expressing your motivation, your reason for applying for the job. Okay, that's what counts the most, is your writing. Okay, your how you express yourself. Mhm. No, Clara, in my opinion, it's more than enough. Also, too, if you have that on your CV, your your studies, your program in your CV of your education requirements, most often, guys, even having just a master's degree is a great leg up on the competition. Okay, so having that 2 years and extra really helps as well. And if you're studying business or studying any type of marketing or anything in that arena, it's really good. Okay, and yeah, it's good for you, Clara. I think, for example, if you're looking for specific kinds of certificates. Okay. Um, Cambridge is going to be the best one if you want like a certificate that says my level of today. And this is the general kind of thing. So there's a certificate and there's kind of like what I call a train ticket. And the IELTS is general or academic. So the IELTS is more focused and specific on if you want to study somewhere or if you only need something that represents your language proficiency. Okay, there's some differences. The Cambridge never expires. So, for example, if you get your Cambridge in 2020, this says that at this point in time, this is the level that she is at or he is at. Okay, where the IELTS kind of has a, how can I say, an expiration. It's used for a certain thing, it gets your foot in the door, and then you go on. Okay, there's also some business certificates as well that you can get. But that's just doing some research on the Cambridge website or the IELTS website. Okay. So now, for example, let's take a look for you guys the best way to find a job. Now, this is really interesting because if I think about it, in Italy and America, we have a slightly different technique for finding a job. I can tell you, and probably New York City and Milan are similar in the fact that you have to make an appointment. You can't just go in and talk to anybody. But in a lot of different ways, and it depends on the trade, the type of work you like. I call it walk-ins welcome. And what I mean is some places, just by you walking in and saying, hey, are you looking for this person or this type of person? You get a conversation going and you kind of make that unique first impression that really helps. And this obviously is a chance encounter, but you got to try it. Okay, what we say is you have to beat the pavement. Okay. And what I mean by beating the pavement is actually going to these places, introducing yourself. Okay. Obviously, if you live in a different country, that's a little bit difficult. But the best thing with Skype and Zoom and all of our online resources, what you guys can do is kind of make a virtual first impression. Okay. So it's really important. I think that our easiest way for all of us, and I think you guys, the easiest way is obviously the internet. Okay. um, the best thing, for example, I'll tell you guys about how I got a job at my English school. Now, I came to Italy as a student, but I came to live in Italy. Okay, so when I first graduated undergrad, which is the 4 year, I also did a small certification of teaching English as a foreign language, teaching English as a second language. Okay. And I did this intensive course that gave me a base certificate to teach English anywhere in the world. Now, when I took this certification, they told me that I would never be able to teach in Europe because usually you have to be a European citizen or have some kind of special thing more. Okay. And this is something that's really interesting. When people tell you no, usually it's the thing that you need to do. Okay, you have to go against the grain here. Remember that. Okay. And I like this. So that's a very good tip. So some exceptions aside, HR is usually tested during the interview because they know that many people have certificates but don't have the requested fluency. Exactly. That's the most important part, ladies, is the fact that it's really more important about getting your foot in the door. Okay. So like I was saying, I have this certificate that I can teach English anywhere. And I didn't want to teach in South Korea or Japan because 5 years ago, the big ticket was go to Japan, go to South Korea, even go to Dubai, go to China, go to India. And that wasn't my focus. My focus was get into Italy and live here. So after that point, I get this certification and I'm like, okay, it's just a nice little piece of paper. And I moved to Italy and I'm studying. And one day I'm walking down the street and I see this school called My English, which I represent right now. And I walk in the door and I talk with the director and I say, hey, I don't know if you guys are looking for anybody, but I have this certification. I'm an English teacher. And, if you guys are ever looking for anybody, give me a call. And about a week later, they called me and I was hired as a teacher. Okay. So you always have to try, guys. The moral of the story is always have to try. Okay. Um, Here, for example, you bring up a good question. A friend of mine has told me that CVs don't have to include neither a photo nor a birth date for foreign countries. So, for example, usually all you have to include is name and contact information, email or phone number, okay, or both. That's all you need to include. There's no need for a picture, nothing, okay, because it's called confidentiality. Therefore, in America, you'll usually see a nice header that is, for example, Sean O'Rourke, email address, telephone number, and that's it. Okay. And then you start talking about your experiences. Okay. Yeah, I know. In Italy, it's kind of it's a little different situation. Okay. But that's the thing. In America, it's there's so many different laws against profiling that it has to be as neutral as possible. Okay. So now, for example, what are some different ways that we can integrate ourselves into a country? Okay, this is a very important part. So we get a job where we're there in the new country and we're getting acquainted. We don't really know people. Maybe we start working. Okay, it's really important, guys. And I give this to anybody. But if if you find a job and you move to a country, you have to now find something that you like outside of work. Maybe going to the gym or going to the park or going to a specific bar or club, okay, or find a hobby, because you have to integrate yourself into the culture. The most important thing, okay, I know people that have done study abroad programs, but if you're always with the same group, you don't integrate yourself, you don't find new friends, and you become lonely and you become kind of unmotivated. And that's not what you want to do. Think about it. All of this work that you built to plan and get ready and move to a new country, all of this work can be spoiled on the fact that you get there and you don't integrate yourself into the daily runnings and daily movements of society. Okay. And this is something interesting about the coronavirus and the situation we're in now, we have to remember that we play a very small but important role in the ongoing events and the continuation of the economy, of society, et cetera, et cetera. So remember, you play an important part. So you get to the new country, and now you have to find ways to integrate yourself. Okay. So we're going to look at different ways to grow inside your profession. Okay. Always, once again. Exactly. Okay. And these are things that humble you. These are different walks of life that can help you feel more connected with the culture that you're in. Okay, especially living in a city, it's easy to be an unknown, to be nobody. Okay, and it's easy to feel that way as well. But you always have to look at different ways to ask questions, to even jump and go a little bit outside of yourself. Okay, step outside your comfort zone. Don't be afraid to just start a conversation with people. Okay, because that's how we make connections, and that's the most important part. Okay, so just a quick little thing. I just want to tell you guys, talking mostly about America, because I can only talk to you guys really about America, is the fact that we have visas and we have permits. Now, you guys come from the Schengen Ordinance, and therefore, for anybody, you guys only need an ESTA pass, which actually, if you buy an ESTA pass for America, you can be in America for up to 3 months, so 90 days. And that ESTA pass, though, actually is valid for 1 or 2 years. I'm not sure. Excellent. Okay. Tandem is a great way. Okay. And that's the thing, is you just want to keep building a network of people. Okay, so working and living in a different country, you want to also realize your boundaries. Okay, how far you can go. So, for example, a lot of times for different types of people, some people like to prepare, other people just like to jump. If you're the person that just likes to jump, you know that with the ESTA pass, you can be in that country for up to 90 days. So here's a thing where you could just buy a one-way ticket with your ESTA pass. You jump over there, you see how it works, you start to make connections, you start to connect the dots, and boom, you have a job. And now you're working with your employer to help you transfer your ESTA into a visa, into a work visa. And then little by little, it'll become a permanent residence. Okay. So these are steps that you want to take. They are slow steps. They don't happen overnight, but little by little, if you make the right connections, they can become where now you'll understand the structure and you're moving towards these little goals. Okay. And that's the most important part, is we want to continue to always focus on the little goals to reach the big accomplishments. Okay, because if we just focus on getting a green card, it'll never happen. We have to understand all the different steps. So first is finding a job or moving to the country. Next is, okay, I have 3 months, I need to find a job. I get the job. Then after I get the job, okay, now I want to transfer my ESTA into a work permit. Okay, then now I get the work permit. Now I have to maybe declare my residence. Okay, so now I have an apartment, I'm paying rent, and I can prove that that's my residence. And then after that, I can apply for the green card. And that is how you integrate yourself legally into a country. Okay, so guys, we have a minute left. If you guys have any questions right now, please feel free to ask. Okay, these are my tips and tricks, and I thank also the others that have given us awesome tips for finding and integrating ourselves into new countries, to find the resources and making things happen. Okay, I wish you guys the best of luck. Thank you always for following us on these webinars. And sometimes we also get to see you guys in classes, which are nice. So if you guys are my smart students, thank you so much for being with us. Remember, you can always follow us on the social media pages of Facebook and Instagram. And I hope you guys have a great, great Tuesday. Okay? Bye.